We're ready to call our meeting to order this time. Charlotte Select Board, downtown Charlotte. Okay, we've done the 6 o'clock site visit at Thompson's Point. We've done the 6:30 site visit at Heinsberg Road. It's 7 o'clock. Are there adjustments to the agenda? Okay. Are there public comments? Yes, Mary.
So I'm wondering, I sent you guys an email, but I didn't really get much of a response. So I'm wondering if it's possible for you to put on the agenda sooner than later, maybe a discussion of the purchasing policy. There seems to be a little clarification that might need to happen. So specifically with the when people are purchasing services or goods or whatever between $1,000 and $5,000, and the purchasing policy says that they need to have 3 quotes, it would seem that those quotes would need, that paperwork would need to reside in the town hall, not...
Oh, you mean the quotes for the record in the file?
Yeah.
Okay, I saw that. You're right. I didn't react to it. Yes, we should do that. Have you made recommended language to us or to Dean or just the comments you made now?
I just made the comments. I'm hoping that it will be on the agenda so that we can discuss it, and I'm happy to, you know, before the meeting, whatever that would be, I would come up with some wording, and then you guys can all discuss it and say yes, no, add, subtract, whatever.
You could mark it up, track changes in red kind of thing, then we can all see.
Small addition.
Huh? Small?
Just a small
Okay.
addition.
Yes, we're doing public comment. Yes.
Well, actually, I do want to speak to Mary's suggestion. I missed the beginning part where I assume it's having the quotes submitted to the town treasurer.
No, to the town hall, she said.
Okay.
To whoever we decide the appropriate place is.
The purchasing policy, well, we can talk about it later. I don't know if now is the time, but asks for the purchasing agent to keep records. And I'm wondering if all those records would be kept here or if it will still be the responsibility of the purchasing agent. That's what explains how decisions were made. It's more than just the quotes.
So rather than debating it now,
Yeah.
I think that's a good
But
discussion.
just anyway, I think that it's good to know that there might be some other thoughts that might want to consider in looking at this. I'm not sure if the wording is the thing right now, but
Okay.
the idea of changing the policy, that part of the policy, but.
It's always easier if you have draft wording to work from than try to create it among all of us, so whoever, yeah.
June 26th would be possible.
Sure.
June 12th is actually fairly full right now.
Okay. You know, the other thing we didn't decide upon, speaking of open comments, the policy, the fraud thing, have we talked about, there's a date that came in for what, the 24th of June?
July 24th.
July 24th?
Right.
So we should put that on our personal agendas, July 24th. You recommended all of us attend. That's really what the purpose is. So we ought to do that too. So that's fraud policy, and it will be moderated by someone from Sullivan Powers. 24 July, you said?
Is that confirmed? I mean, is everyone?
Is everybody good with that? I mean,
This is during the meeting dates, at 4 o'clock.
Like 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock on our meeting day. So everybody's good with that then?
4 o'clock. I can make it.
Okay. Anything else on public comments? Yes.
Okay, so this comes up, and I'm sorry to say it's grid related, but there's a lot of kids who are seasonal, or you know, they're summer help or they're whatever. So specifically, there is a girl possibly at the library who worked for the library last year, and she's ended last August of 2016. So, and I'm not sure if she's gonna have hours or not, starting in June, for June, July, going forward. But what are we supposed to do with that person? Like, let's just say, for discussion, that she, in August, she was paid, whatever, $10.50 an hour.
When did the start work? Ended August 2016.
I think she worked like a year. I
From
think
August 15 to August 16?
she worked something like that. Very part-time. She was probably 5 hours or less a week. So, the purchasing policies, or not the purchasing,
The SAT.
salary thing. Would she be starting at, would she be considered a new employee and she's gonna start at, you know, what, I really don't know. Or are you gonna start her where she left off and she's gonna start in June, and then you're going to give her a step increase and a cost of living increase?
We actually talked about that 2 weeks ago related to the beach, and what you just said is what we said. So that person would stay on, then July 1st, it would get the grid pay increase.
I think that's a little odd.
Oh, we talked about it.
When you're considering, you have people that work 40 hours a week, and let's say they are hired January 1st of 2017. They work almost 6 months. There's no cost of living or step increase for them per your policy. But you're gonna give a step increase and a cost of living increase to somebody who stopped working last August of 2016. How does that, I don't really see how that works.
Well, it has to do with when you start and stop. I mean, you gotta draw a line somewhere.
I don't think you ever discussed stopping and starting.
Well, we talked about the beach help was a good example. You know, it's high school kids work 3 months, then they come back June 1st, and I think, I thought Matt led the discussion. That person comes back June 1st, it's on that same schedule when they left in August or September, and then we agreed, I'm not sure if we made a motion, but that person would then, July 1st, as it's going to be the case of the beach, it's going to go up one.
Okay, so here you have let's take the kids at the beach, for example. Now they're going to start in June, and if I understand you correctly, we use the 16-17 grid pay thing, start in June.
Yeah.
In July, after a short period of working, they're going to move up a step and get a cost of living increase. They're going to be done in August, mid-August, late August for some of them, okay? And then they're going to come back in June, and you're going to pay them, and then they're going to go up a step, and they're going to get a cost of living increase. They're hardly working, they're working a very small amount out of the year, and they're getting, and the step increases that they're getting are at the level of 2.25% plus the cost of living increase for extremely part-time, seasonal, short-term work, and compare that to the person that you hired as, let's say, your zoning administrator, just for example, a full-time employee, but that person was hired on January 1st. It just seems like I don't know, it seems odd to me.
Well, we use this example, these are minimum wage jobs. They're high school or starting college kids. Minimum wage job, they would only do it for 1 or 2 years. And it was kind of our consensus here, it was an incentive for that person to come back, which makes it easier for the beach attendant director or the recreation director. So we To answer your question, yeah, we did recommend that.
And especially with the seasonal beach one, they worked July and August of a fiscal year and then the following June of that fiscal year. So they're working basically straddling the same fiscal year and taking the winter off, much like any other seasonal jobs in Vermont. you
So
know.
are you saying that if someone stops working in like August and then returns to the town of Charlotte to work in the following year in June,
They're at the same
that person
pay.
is considered,
They're at the same step as they were when they left.
and then they would have a step up in July?
Because they were working at the beginning of that fiscal year, way before January 1st. It's just being consistent with the policy, which isn't,
I think it's really
That vague
inconsistent
there.
with the full-time versus part-time versus
Well,
seasonal, but.
I mean, I see the fairness with full and part-time as a part-time person is working 10 hours a week and getting paid for 10 hours a week, and a full-time person is working 40 hours a week, so 2.5% increase on 40 hours is a lot more than a 2.5% increase on a 10-hour a week minimum wage job. And that's the fairness, is in the grades of people's pay for the difficulty of the work that they're doing. And the seasonal employees with the beach and the library it's not high-paying jobs. So the fairness is structured in the pay, not, and in being consistent with everyone being treated the same on the grid. So there's fairness in that we're not treating different employees differently.
So then what are you going to do with a returning lister? Does that work the same way? How does that work?
You know, this is not on the agenda. We did, everything you've said up to that, we've dealt with last week.
Well, I wish you would put it on agenda just because these,
Well, beach
to be
attendants,
specific about the employees that we're looking at that we're gonna be paying in June, July. Mo is reelected in March. He is a lister now. He was gone for a while. Now he's back. So it would be just nice to have it on an earlier agenda rather than later and just say it. And if you have to add it to your salary policy for these weird exceptions, then please do, because I'm kind of done with bringing up the grid.
okay, go ahead.
It doesn't seem vague in the policy. If a person was not working for the town before January 1st, then they don't receive a pay increase July 1st. That's really clear. The beach people were working way before January 1st in July and August of that fiscal year. So when they come back to work in June at the same job, they are getting the same pay of that fiscal year until July, and it goes up. That seems really clear. The Lister one, I mean, I think we should take a look at.
Okay, we can do that. Let's,
Probably look back to the experience. follow the
Well,
guidelines for reevaluating.
if it's a different job, yeah.
I think what Mary's trying to get at is they're not working from January to, your policy says January to June. I mean, they're not working January to June. Although they work before that and they work after that.
Well, there's nothing in here that says they need to. That's what's clear to me.
Well,
I mean, it's a point of logic, but it's not, doesn't pertain to the policy. There's nothing in here that says someone has to be working continuously to get
no,
a
but
pay increase.
were they employed on January 1st?
They were employed
in the
previous
fiscal
to
year.
January 1st.
the fiscal year.
In the fiscal year, but not the calendar year, and they're talking about the calendar year on that.
No, our
Or they're
grid
talking
is-
January 1st,
Our grid is the fiscal year.
but you said January 1st.
Talks about January.
For the raise.
A raise. If you started in December, come the next July, you get a raise.
Right.
If you started in January,
You
come
don't.
the next July, you won't get a raise. That's the line for that one.
I just find it difficult to do raises on employees that are working 2 months and give them a cost of living raise.
Well, did their cost of living not go up with everyone else who lives in the community? Is gas more expensive? I mean, that's what the cost of living is based on, is that
Right.
things
but
are more
I
expensive.
think, yeah, but it's usually based on a full year full year of service to me, but
I don't know, the cost of living increase
by-
they get is a percentage of the wage the amount of hours they work.
We're starting to get behind schedule. Why don't we,
People get cost.
yeah,
can we,
I think we ought to put it on.
put it on an agenda in the near future?
So,
And the lister's
list-
probably a better example. We've already worked the minimum wage jobs, and I thought it was a courtesy to get these folks back.
Wait, but do permanent or part-time people get a cost of living?
The grid,
raise?
yes, it's in the
I know.
grid.
And they
It's in the
move
grid.
up steps
But I mean, just
annually.
Yes, the answer is yes. Are there any select board updates? You're going to talk to us about fire and rescue?
Yeah.
And any status on the pumper? Quotes get requested?
I think one of them's back. They have till the end of May to get them back in. I haven't talked to board meeting tomorrow night. Can answer that tomorrow.
And nothing new on the oil tank at the senior center or
Well,
anything?
I talked to Dean briefly. It's the consensus of the people that I talked to for the comfort of the people that use it, especially considering the age group, that the heated floor is a good thing to keep. So that rules out the mini split and the heat pump systems. You want to stay with a boiler. So the question is it cheaper to, or I recommended to Dean that pending one more run through the building, that we offer an RFP to figure out the price to convert to propane and eliminate the underground fuel tank, because I think the fuel tank rules are changing in July. And also at the same time have an option to replace the existing equipment with on-demand equipment. So instead of having a big boiler and a big tank, you have the smaller things that fire up when the water's needed and they turn off when it's not. So that would just be an option. That's the more energy efficient way to do it, but at the time of receiving the RFPs, you'd be able to tell if it was save you any money or not. So I still want to walk around the building one more time to
Okay.
answer a couple of details.
Any other updates? Ashley, highway permit? We'd like to have you sit in the front row, that way the microphone picks you up and you get to talk to us. Okay, so you want to give the audience just 2 minutes on what you're requesting?
Okay, so in June I bought Mindy's place and I bought the Guerin house, the extra 8 acres on the west side. And currently I cannot get tractor trucks in my driveway. They take out my post, I can't do it. And depending on how the equine industry goes, depending on the different circuits and stuff like that, I need more parking for my horse shows. I'm getting filled up, like I had a horse show in May and I was packed full. And it saves them from not ruining my lawn either, and having paddocks for 40 horses. So I wanted to do take the Guerin house driveway out, put the main one in, so then when I do refinish and refurbish the Guerin house, whoever lives in there has their own driveway and there's not tractor trucks going through their front yard. And then it would go past the 4 paddocks that I put on the Guerin, down the road, depending on how the equine industry works out with the different circuits, being local or A circuit, I, in the future, would add in another parking lot, so then I don't have, I want cars to come in one way, horses and trailers the other way, because the way that Mindy had it set up before is you had parking and 2 feet from you was a car, and you have a kid and a horse, and that's extremely dangerous. So I'm just trying to prevent all of that, and also be able to make sure my clients are happy, make sure truckers are happy, make sure my fences are happy, and stuff like that.
So what we do is we vote on the culvert, the location, the width. So do you have any input, Junior, concerns? You put a 40-foot, 15-inch diameter culvert there. The visibility is great both ways. Anybody on the board have any comments?
Just that on a normal culvert is 30 feet, and they're requesting a 40-foot culvert to accommodate for
Yeah, and I paid for the extra gravel and the extra
for the
half of the
extra,
culvert.
yep. And, so it's a moving of a driveway that belonged that was on the Garen, property, and is still on the Garen property, and just moved to the east a little bit, so I'm fine with it.
Good. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the highway access permit for 1379 Heinsberg Road as presented with the 40-foot culvert.
17-03.
17-03.
Okay, it's 17-03.
Second?
Okay. Any discussion?
Question, the condition will be as she proposed, that the old driveway will be removed.
That the old driveway was removed,
Okay.
yes.
And that doesn't change my 911 address of the
Right.
Garen house, correct? Okay, perfect.
Anybody have any other comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Ashley. You're good to go. You are.
Hi, everyone.
You don't look like Kelly Brush.
I'm not
Oh,
Elizabeth Langfeld.
okay. There
We
you are.
would love to be able to ride through Charlotte for the 12th year of the Kelly Brush Ride. September 9th. We generally have about 700 riders that start at Middlebury College. Less than 100 make it up through Charlotte. It's not a race, so we don't have herds of people together. You really can't tell the difference between us and normal Saturday bike riders out on the roads. We recently moved a water stop from Chris Bofa's house, Chris and Nan Bofa's house, to Carrie's store, which worked out really well in the intersection of Heinsberg and Spear. And we have a lot of Charlotte residents that are participants and supporters of the foundation. We've received great feedback. I always post on Front Porch Forum to notify people that it's happening, but there's signs up throughout Charlotte, Shelburne, Heinsberg, Ferrisburg to let people know when the ride's going to be, as much in advance as we can get our act together.
What's your connection with the ride?
I'm the development director for the foundation.
So how much money do you raise annually, either this ride or overall?
Well, we're doing pretty well these days. We're aiming to raise $500,000 for the ride,
Wow.
which is our marquee fundraiser.
In a single year's ride?
Yeah.
Or multiple?
One day.
Wow.
And we are national now. We're on track to hopefully raise about $800,000 this year for adaptive sport equipment for spinal cord injury and to support ski racing safety.
Are there other rides the same day in other towns?
We do have a virtual ride in San Francisco. We have about 50 people that are riding 100 miles that day. And we're starting to get a little momentum in Boulder and Denver. But our other fundraisers are just Boston, Denver, and San Francisco, just other cultivation events. But we're growing fast.
Good. Congratulations on your
Thank you.
success.
Thanks. It's a lot of work.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve the Kelly Brush Ride for September 9th, 2017, as outlined in the application.
Second.
Just for us to note, there are 2 rides that day, but it's been that way and it doesn't interfere, as you mentioned.
I think we have different times that we're going through the area. They start a little bit earlier than we do. But yes, we've always been in great communication.
And there should be an autograph from the fire department somewhere in here.
Yes.
Yeah, they did review it. The
We
one
had
that got distributed, I distributed before they reviewed it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure. Turned out
They
great.
love the noisemakers.
Oh, I know. More comment.
All right, good. We learned that last year.
The next topic, speed bump, the end of Thompson's Point Road. Or Dick, are you the representative of this topic? Center stage, and you get to be on the microphone. You want to give us 2 minutes of why and so forth?
Right, I'm Richard Tino, I represent Thompson Point Leaseholders Association. There's been an issue of controlling speed as people enter Thompson Point over a small ridge where the road is paved and then it becomes unpaved. The issue is safety. When you come down the hill, it's 15 miles per hour, and that's a good speed, rarely achieved, but nonetheless, it's quite reasonable. The issue is coming over the hill too fast. So through the years, we've tried to have signs. We've had a small obstruction in the side of the road. And last year, it was stated that we could not have an obstruction because of it was on the public thoroughfare. So we moved to potentially have a speed bump. We've looked at that. We're recommending, we're asking that we put a speed bump at the crest of that hill. And after discussion, if you want me to mention today, we thought that it would be good to have 2 speed bumps across the road, two 6-foot sections in together, and have them on the incline coming up to the bump with appropriate signage, and then on the decline coming away from the bump. So 2 sets of 12-foot speed bumps. They'd be roughly 2.5 inches. And through communication, it would be put in by the town on an annual basis at the beginning of the season, and then removed at the end of the season so plows and fire trucks could go in appropriately. In the off-season, and the town would provide the bumps, and also I understand Junior would put the bumps in and take them out on an annual basis. So we're asking for recommendation and approval.
So these are existing bumps that we're using in the library, so there's 4 6-foot sections. And Junior, that's what you recommend, as Dick mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing is that putting in the 2 speed bumps is only gonna be 12 feet. 6 and 6 on each side, so I think that's gonna allow for people to go around them, because the road is probably like 20 feet here, I think.
Oh, you're gonna put 2 sections together and have
Right, which
2
equals 12
separate,
12 feet.
yeah.
And the road is 20.
We need 3
3 of them?
sections.
Wow,
We're
it's,
gonna need 3 sections to make it across.
So we
Oh,
may
we
need
didn't
2
talk
more,
about that.
because you only have 4.
What's the value
I
of it?
stopped and looked, and we have 5.
So we'd only
Oh.
need 1 more to
Can-
get 2 rows.
What's the price if you were to buy 1 more?
I don't.
Couple $100 bucks?
just
I don't
use the
remember what
one,
they
just
paid.
use half of one.
I wouldn't think it would be
Just
over
use
probably
that.
$100 for a 6-foot.
How long are they?
They're 6 foot long.
I'm just wondering if you just space them out a little bit, although they might miss it with one tire, they wouldn't miss it with both of them.
That's what I was saying.
If you had a-
Stagger
if
them
you had
like
a-
this.
Even if they were,
all
if it
5
went
of
all the way
them.
across, if you had to take up to 6 feet, if you put them 1.5 to 2 feet apart, they're still gonna have a hard time missing them completely.
One of the things we talked about is it encourages people to start swerving, to miss that one tire, which
Possibly.
there's walkers and bikers, and it is a blind hill, right where it's proposed.
Well, there's 2 of them, if you put them to the outboard, that'll stop people from swerving off the road.
Right, it'll force oncoming into each other.
Well, or we
To
get hit
avoid
with it anyway.
tires.
Why not just buy a 6th one and then have
An
18 feet in
18-foot
each?
section, which leaves that probably a foot that we were talking about for bicycles to be able to probably not have to go over it.
To buy the 6th one, then have 2 18-foot strips? Is there a motion to do that?
I just had a thought as we were leaving the site, we didn't have a chance to talk about it. There's a point where the yellow striping stops, maybe 30 feet before the crest of that hill, and that seemed like a nice natural spot to put that first speed bump. Because there's no yellow line going over the paved section where the hill is, and then down to where it meets dirt. So I thought, it's on a flat, there's a little time and visibility to be able to see a car crest the hill before they're entering that first bump. Of course, we didn't walk up there and see it, but do you know where I'm talking?
Yeah.
Yeah, does that make sense, or?
I think it's fine with me.
Okay.
I mean, we're basically doing it as a trial, just to see what's gonna happen.
So, make a motion to authorize the road commissioner to buy one more 6-foot section of matching speed bump and to install 2 bumps on either side of the crest of the hill on Thompson's Point Road, as discussed.
Okay.
Temporary through certain dates,
Yeah,
or
Through
gotta
October.
put something on there. It's just a trial run this year.
And the leases are April 15th to November 15th.
November
So that might be a good just
Yeah, that's fine.
date.
And we need to,
They changed.
Should we clear out the motion? So,
wait,
Carrie, you just had some dates. You want it, April 15th to November 15th?
Well, I think it's October.
October.
They go to October 30th.
Okay.
Whether it's,
31st.
you know, weather permitting.
And was that seconded?
Yeah.
I know, I'm looking for
Well,
some.
second,
Okay, discussion, go ahead.
we have to also have signs put up, speed bump, but it should say speed bumps.
Whatever
speed
signage is
bumps,
required
fine,
by the
Yeah,
state transportation code would also have to be installed.
Okay.
And those will be temporary also. Take those down in the winter when the bumps come out.
something like that.
I just leave the discretion of putting them in on a seasonal basis to junior, based on weather and plowing and.
When you've got time
Yes,
to,
and
makes
although
sense
it's
to do
legally
it.
April 1st, functionally, it's,
Do we have the signs?
there's one.
Junior?
We have some speed bump signs. I don't think they have the S on them.
I think we'd have to read the
I was just
transportation
wondering
stuff
if we already
first.
had them, or if we have to have those, put that in the motion to make sure that are we gonna require Junior to purchase those
sure
if they're required?
To make sure the installation complies with state transportation rules.
Perfect.
Sounds good to me.
Everybody, you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Thank you, Dick and
Thank you.
Eric
We'll
and
give you feedback,
Junior.
Yeah.
as we'll hear.
It'll be,
See if they
Great.
work on Greenbush after you test them on Thompson's Point.
I guarantee we'll have feedback over the summer.
very well.
Guaranteed. Maybe on Front Porch Forum, Phil.
Thank you.
Okay. We are on schedule for Charlotte Volunteer Fire and Rescue financial update.
Okay, we can start with the first page. I probably won't go through everything, but the telling issue is on the first page, the salary, wages, and increases is the one that is in dollar-wise significantly higher than expected for the same reasons that was discussed in creating the budget. Some of the labor issues came up after you come up with a budget 18 months out and then you hope that everything stays the same. Looking at probably being 5% over budget total this year seems to be where, barring any unforeseen circumstances. The good side is the billing is higher than expected by a good chunk, which offsets a little bit of that labor increase. Not quite sure why. There's some people that just attribute it to more people being insured, and
So we're 75% of the year with this report, so that's So you're over and under 75%.
Yeah, 11% over.
Yeah, that's good for the.
The bottom
patient.
line is you're at about 80%, so it should be 75. So some of them are significantly higher. There's like bank charges is 102%, but you're talking, small amount of money. That's really the only significant topic is that the payroll is costing more. There's benefits cost more, but if you look in this, is that the second page where it separates benefits from salary and wages, but that's because we actually have a full-time employee with a family. So that wasn't expected when the budget was created. So I think that's under rescue benefits.
So that's about the third page in or so?
Yeah.
Rescue
Was there a
benefits.
policy for that?
Oh, wow, yeah.
No. There is now, but it was, do you
Why not then?
offer? It's not the same insurance that the town gets. They still have to contribute a significant amount. I think it's like 75% they get. I know town employees pretty much get everything paid for, so. So it's not as much, the coverage isn't as good as the town employees receive, but they do cover.
So that
Families.
budget of 12,000 I'm looking at, well, that's actual, the budget is 20,000. Is this a fairly new employee?
Yes.
So this year you'll probably be all right, because the year ends July 1st.
Yes.
Okay. Christina, you have a question, comment?
So I have a question, because even though it's a small stuff, you guys are still over the budget on those items, and those are kind of set items. Your telephone and your bank are kind of set fees, and you're already at over 100%, and you still have to make it until the end of June. So I'm just curious how, when you budgeted, it wasn't factored in, because those were all
Well-
kind of set fees.
Bank charges don't necessarily happen on a schedule. They sometimes happen when you have activity in an account.
We actually, as a municipality, don't really pay any bank fees, so I was curious as to what those bank fees were.
I thought those were the fees that were charged for doing payroll. Because People's Bank used to do payroll.
I don't know exactly what they are, but I can find out.
Just curious.
Where
Most
do
of
you
the time,
see-
fees are kind of set.
The
Bank
second to
fees
last
is
line
line
on page
6, so we'll start looking through
I mean, they're small, but
the
they're-
breakdown.
$100, okay.
with the
Oh,
rest of the
100%.
year to go. Same with the telephone.
Bank charges, there's only one line item that contributes to that. Line item 51052, we'll find out what's in that.
So fire benefits are up as well, I see. You're at 120, that's 7,000 budget. You're at 8,524.
Our one full-time fire employee was previously insured under his wife's policy. Now he's switched over to this one.
Okay.
If there's any other questions, I'd be glad to answer them. I mean, things are just kind of moving along.
Is the new boat up and running?
Yes, there's been 2 calls for it in the last 2 weeks. One of them was from a guy who went out without a life vest on his jet ski and sunk his jet ski, but managed to swim to shore in Shelburne. So the boat never actually got there. They weren't gonna go out and try to recover his jet ski. That's not part of the deal. And the other one was, last week, somebody went out in a paddle boat in the middle of the lake without, the little pedal things.
Jeez.
2 guys, no life vests, no shirts. Once they got past the shore at Thompson's Point, the wind started taking them to Canada, so. So, yes, it's up and running.
Do you guys build them like the mountain ski patrol does? Because
That's a question, but actually I asked it too, and everybody's got, well, I don't know, let's see if we can.
Yeah.
I mean, they take the Coast Guard requires, to some extent, you're acting as an extension of the Coast Guard, and they've got their ID and their number and everything else, and we're pressing that question to the Coast Guard, what kind of events do you charge for? So, don't have an answer to that yet.
So the incident sheet, that's everything or fire, or that's the 135 incidents, you categorize them?
The breakdown sheet?
With the pie
Yeah,
chart?
so it's, not so much the breakdown, how does that compare to previous years? Is this fire only, fire and rescue? Or am I having it?
We don't have the report that breaks it down year to year, do we?
I'm curious if you're having more business or less business. Oh, I
I think the
see.
next sheet has the breakdown of
Right. So 135
calls
is,
transported, number of calls, prior years. This is not easy to look at though, so maybe if that's,
It's very
is that on the
detailed.
last sheet? Oh, the very last page. Breaks it down
okay, there you go.
for the last 3 years and then this year.
It says you have 4 watercraft rescues.
There probably was some left over from last year. There was some in the fall, a couple of
Oh,
calls.
was there? I didn't know that.
So I'd say you're down, if I'm looking at transported, you have 179 so far this year. Previous year is 264, 225. And if you're 75% of the way through the year, you'll probably be under 200, huh? Unless summertime is a more active time.
Let's look at the chart. Does it go? It goes by quarter.
14, fiscal year 14 total, 15 total, I'm just looking at transported, 16 total, then fiscal year 17 total.
So the previous 3 years, we've had 76, 63, and 55 in the last quarter. Average somewhere in the middle would be like maybe 60, so that puts you,
Okay,
In the 240 range.
240, which, okay, that's above the average, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
yeah, it tells it is a heavier quarter if you look at the other numbers there.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions on fire and rescue budget? Okay. Interview applicants for West Charlotte Village Wastewater Committee. So we have three candidates or 4 candidates?
We have a total of 4 candidates, one from the planning commissioner and from the planning commission and 3 members of the public.
And that's what we're looking for, right?
Yep.
3 more commission members and 1 additional one from the planning commission.
We
So,
haven't set any terms, or do we have?
Nope.
We don't really, do we have questions that we know what we're gonna ask?
Set terms, would it be a yearly thing or 2 years or?
that's gonna be part of the working up of the revised, what do we call the directive? So I see a couple of candidates here.
I think it's probably gonna take at least a year to go through all this.
And did you want to stagger them, with the 2 or 3 that you get? Do you want to do a 1 and a 2, or?
One,
Yeah.
what do you wanna do?
Maybe one 1-year term and other 2-year terms, or 2 year and 3 years. I don't know, it depends how long you guys want to work.
Well, it also depends, I mean, how long do you really proceed before you're presenting it to an Australian ballot vote also? I mean, do you expect it to go 3 years out before you present it to the town for
I wouldn't think so.
a vote?
It's,
But there might be money aspects, you might be doing it, do we want to proceed?
I think it will be, even past any vote, there will still be more work to do. So I don't see this as, you know, one more, probably like a 3-year, 4-year maybe, by the time it's all said and done and in place. By the time an ordinance, if appropriate, is enacted. I mean, based on the amount of discussion that every time it comes up, it's gonna take a while to weed through all the details, I think.
Do you, let's say we vote on everybody for a term to be defined, and do you want to work that out within the committee, or
Yeah,
should we
that's a good
decide
idea.
that now? I mean, it's kind of premature, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe that's a good idea, just, I mean, we've got just enough people to populate the committee, and we'll, our first meeting, determine,
What the term should be?
yeah, I mean, I'm sure that Dave and Dana have a little bit more experience, Dave, as to how long this process could take.
Who's the fourth person? We have Kate, Jim Hyde, Christina, who's,
Peter Johnson from the.
oh, Peter from
Planning Commission.
planning, you said, right.
Yeah.
Well, are you counting the person that was, I saw in the email that they're not really around very much?
Jim Hyde, this summer, he's traveling, he'll be,
I'd like to see another candidate. Do we have others besides this guy who's
Well, let me
very
just-
good to do that, but
Let me talk to, Jim Hyde is a public health officer. He's a professor at Tufts. This whole water is his background, and he's a cautious person by saying, I'm going to be away 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there. I know him quite well. I don't think he's going to be away that often. He just wanted to be up front for the earlier meetings to let you know, but you could not get a better qualified person to discuss public health and public water. So I would encourage us to proceed with him. He's written in the Charlotte News several times on water issues, having our drinking water tested. He's a very, very conscientious gentleman.
Is there an expectation of how many times they're going to meet?
Well, that's sort of the unknown, because we haven't put the committee together and create objectives, and
I mean, that would be one thing to say whether, I mean, if you're meeting all the time, then the 2 weeks, you know, the weeks that are gone, he's gone, might have an effect a little bit, but, I mean.
I think that'll probably vary on workload and their people's schedules. I mean,
Yeah.
there may
Okay.
be 3 or 4 meetings in a short period of time, and then need some public input, which will get on an agenda and wait for a while, and I'm not anticipating a consistent meeting like every Tuesday or something.
I mean, in Jim's case, he's saying he'll be back in about 2 days, and then one away period is 4 days, another away period is 5 days, and it's September 2 weeks. So just like us, we can kind of manage our schedule
Yeah.
to make sure we get everybody. My suggestion is we just have a motion. Kate or Christina, we've read your write-ups. I mean, you've been involved in this for years, planning and writing, and Christina, I read yours. You're interested in the community. You live nearby. Want to have a motion to accept all 4 with a term to be determined by the committee, make a recommendation back to the select board, and we can confirm that?
So moved.
Okay. Do you have the names? Kathy?
sorry, do the
Do
names?
you have the names, Kathy, do you have the names for the minutes?
It's Jim Hyde, Kate Lanton, Christina Buber, and
Peter Johnson.
Yeah, so that's so moved. Okay, was that seconded?
Second.
Anybody have any discussion about moving forward? And is Dave Marshall kind of the lead, or you, Fritz, or?
I would like to not be the committee chairman.
But you guys are gonna figure that out, too.
Yeah, we'll sit down at our first meeting, we'll hash out terms and kind of a scope of work and who's gonna be in charge of the communication chairman, or whatever you wanna call it.
So the first meeting can make a one paragraph kind of charter, and then we can
Yeah,
approve
we'll
that.
bring that back to,
with
Plus, you have
terms.
It's
the
gonna be-
2-year-old report that was certainly a good start, 3-year-old report now.
yeah, and then there's lots of documentation,
Right.
and one that's 7 years old too, so. there's-
Anybody have any other comments? Thank you for volunteering. All in favor, say aye.
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 Yeah, good. That was even easier than the other volunteer jobs.
Josh is not here yet. I'm wondering, since Mary's here, if you want to jump to waive penalty for late filers?
Sure. I have to find my agenda. Oh, Josh isn't here yet, right. Oh, the 840 item?
Right.
Well, Mary's here. That's just gonna be we can do minutes after that, I guess. The waive penalty?
Is that the last thing that you're staying here for? Yeah, let's pick it up.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we should have really put her before Ashley. Wow, it could have been an hour ago.
Is there a piece of paper that we're,
This one.
what's it look like?
There's a
Okay.
draft memo, I believe.
I must have shuffled my deck here. So, Mary, you want to just talk for a minute? This is traditionally what goes on?
Yeah, it's traditionally what we've done, and there is, the state allows towns to collect a late fee for people who file their homestead late, which is, the homestead declaration is due at the same time that your income tax filing is due, so like this year it was April 18th, I believe. And it just seems like an unnecessary penalty to tell somebody that, oh, by the way, you need to file your homestead, but once you file your homestead, we're going to penalize you at the same time. And that penalty it's actually up to the select board. If we did have the penalty in place and someone argued about that and didn't want to pay it, and that comes before the select board, and you have to decide whether that's to enforce it or not. Causes an undue hardship. That would be your job. So, this year, I believe the homestead rate is going to be lower than the non-residential rate, which is not usually the case, but it is the case this time. And so we would be allowed to penalize them an extra 3% of the education property tax. I just feel it's unnecessary.
How many years in a row have we done this? I mean, it's
We've done it we've waived it every
Okay.
year.
Is there a motion?
Habitual offenders?
No, it's all over the place, and a lot of it is, the state sometimes frequently changes their rules, but they don't really make it clear to anybody that there was a change. It's hard a lot of times for people who are just coming to the area. They have no idea what a homestead declaration is. Old people, young people who aren't paying attention. It's all over the place, really.
I'll make a motion to waive the penalty for the late homestead filing for fiscal year 17-18.
Second.
Okay. Any comments, discussion? All in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Okay. Enjoy your dinner.
Thank you.
Why don't we do the animal? This is just renewal. I mean, Kelly's, she's not coming, is she?
No, it's not. It's the agreement with Comfort Kennels.
Oh, Comfort Hill, Comfort
Hill,
Kennels,
sorry,
yes.
yep.
So this is our agreement to take the dogs there if they're not picked up.
Right.
We've done this for several years too, right?
We have.
It's very convenient to us, the
Yep.
town.
I'll make the motion to renew the animal housing agreement with Comfort Kennels for, Comfort Hill Kennels, just looking down here, for fiscal year 17-18,
And authorize the chair to sign it.
and authorize the chair to sign it.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good. Want me to sign this one, or you have some fancy letterhead?
No, I think. I have to get their signatures also.
Here you go, Dean. We can review the minutes of May 8th. Is there a motion to review them, to approve the minutes of May 8th as may be modified?
Yeah, it sounds like a good motion to me. I'll do that.
Second?
Okay, well, let's take a look. Oh, good, you're just on time. We're about to get to you. We're ahead of schedule. Less controversy these days and months. Quiet.
Apparently so, it's the first time I've walked into a
You don't have to have your badge. You don't have to have your badge out. Line 167, 168, 169, I don't know how to correct it, but we talked about how road speeds are set. So they put the tubes across the road, and then they take all of that data, and that becomes an average, and then you can set the speed limit as low as 85% of that average. I'm not sure it says that, but
Mr. Morrison, we could say, Mr. Morrison briefly explained the process for setting the speed on town roads.
yeah,
And then,
for setting this, for setting, I go like that, setting speed on town roads.
the CCRPC monitors speeds and can set the speed limit as low as 85%.
5% of the average speed, that's what it's, that's the way it works.
And can strike, motorists can travel 80, the next sentence.
Right. And then Lieutenant Scott was just talking about data. These reports we've been getting by email is just the data he's getting. He's not resetting the speed limit, he's just telling us
That we can't set it lower than it currently is.
right, or right, the data he's getting doesn't allow it
The
either.
85th percentile was higher than the existing speed limits on those two roads.
Yes.
That's what he kind of relayed to us
Okay.
there.
That was the only thing I had. Anything else? All in favor of the motion to approve the minutes, indicate by saying aye.
All right.
Okay. Josh, you're gonna get us back on schedule here because we'll probably talk a bit. We're ahead of schedule. Front row, you're on the mic.
Yes.
You're being blasted out at.
Back in the hot seat. Let me just make sure my cell phone is on. Good to go.
So, Dean, as you mentioned, there are two different topics here. One is renewing Josh as constable.
Right.
And then I'd sort of like to move forward and just discuss things that we talked about a year ago, motorcycles and enforcement, sheriff's department involved. I mean, can we do all that?
You can. I guess I want to point out, I think the appointment itself, I don't think is controversial. Maybe you just want to get that
Out of the way
done
first.
with. Right.
Okay.
I think so too.
I'll make a motion to appoint Josh Flore as the town constable for a 2-year term ending June 2019.
Second.
Any question about that? Any comments? You're good with that?
Let's do it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, but the second part is a long discussion.
Could be.
It could be.
Could be.
There's lots of questions,
So we've had,
Parts.
lots.
we've had lots of comments on Front Porch Forum,
Yeah.
people attending, a lot of anecdotal evidence that speeds are high. So we had a couple solutions.
Sure.
One was you and your motorcycle, and there's some issues that we want to talk about, giving tickets during fair weather, warmer seasons. And the other option we talked about was Sheriff's Department and contracting time with the Sheriff's Department. So 2 discussions of having live people on the roads, more patrolling. So why don't we talk about the motorcycle? What's your thought about that?
Well, I'm still very interested in it. I have talked with Dave Lewis. Do you guys know Dave?
Lewis Motors.
He used to be Lewis Motors. He owns an equipment business to outfit cruisers and police supply and the such. So I've been talking with him as to what I would need. I've got the brochure in my truck, and I just need to outline to him what I want to be able to get a quote to put the lights on the motorcycle. Reading the December, are these December minutes, Dean, or November minutes?
Yeah, they're actually.
November minutes.
They're first November 14th and
Yeah.
then November
And then
28th and
November
then
28th.
December, which was the last time this was discussed, I
Okay.
think. December 12th.
So in reviewing the November 14th minutes, it's stated as page
Yep.
7. Excuse me. I still think I can handle 3 to 4 hours a week in the summer. Or, yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. But the thing you have to remember is that 3 to 4 hours a week isn't a lot of time. It's a stopgap. Okay, it's in addition to whatever else you want to do. And I think that whomever you choose to do your majority patrol or your speed enforcement patrol, you need to really think about how the public is going to be treated and what you're getting and what you're looking for. You know, if you're looking for speed enforcement and motor vehicle enforcement, I think both the state police and the sheriff's department are great options. However, knowing the experience that the town had several years back, the townspeople weren't really stoked about having the sheriff's department here. From what I can remember, there were quite a few complaints about how people were treated and so on. Now, I know a lot of the deputies over at the sheriff's department, and they're professional guys. And I think if you were to speak with them and let them know, listen, this is primarily what we're looking for, and we don't want to have the same issue, I think they would be open to that feedback.
At kind of certain times, you know, like.
I understand.
Be able to tell them where hot spots are.
Correct, and those hot spots are generally predicted or at this point in time, given to us through
Pretty easy.
through Front Porch Forum, okay? Now, I'm probably not gonna be the most popular guy in town when I say this, but when you stand on the side of the road and you look at a car coming at you, your perception of that speed is going to be off. It's going to be skewed.
We just experienced that at a site visit today.
There you go. You know, you're going with, you know, you're looking at a car going, oh my God, they're flying, and you put a radar unit on them, they're going 40. You know, it's like, whoa, okay, well, wait a minute. Along what you're talking about, and you know, doing it during certain times. I know that when Shelburne was doing it, there was, excuse me, I'm trying to get through this cough that I've got. There's talk about us splitting our time down here for like 2 hours in the morning during the morning commute and 2 hours down here at night during the evening commute, and that's impossible for a large department to do, even a department of Shelburne size. We've got contracts that say, you know, it's a minimum of 3. We're not going to hold somebody over, you know, that if they were coming down here for 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening. That's very difficult for a police department to do. State police seem to be handling, you know, doing what they need to do. I don't know what the what the latest numbers are from state police and how they've looked, but I can tell you that I see them down here quite a bit.
Well, Lieutenant Scott said this really is not a town with significant problems, whether it be speed or burglaries, but
correct.
Still, with Route 7 construction, the 3 roads going north and south are getting much more traffic.
And we knew that was going to happen. In fact, I remember when the Route 7 when that Route 7 corridor project was mentioned, there was concern that the north-south thoroughfares were going to see an increase in traffic. And living on Greenbush Road, I can vouch for that.
But if the project had started 3 years ago or 7 years from now, there would still be the same traffic flowing on the, it's got to be that way for this amount of time.
And the thing is that people are going to realize now that they've started taking Greenbush Road and Spear Street and part of Dorset Street, but the north-south thoroughfares, Philo Road, you know, that they realize that, hey,
not a bad alternative. Not
a bad alternative. I can get off of 7, there's not a lot of traffic, and here we go. Okay, so do I think that I think we'll see a fair amount of traffic calming once the Route 7 project is done, but I would say some of that traffic is here to stay, just because of how people see the routes that they can travel and that they're a lot easier.
So Route 7 will always be the
Route
fastest
7 will
route
always
for them.
be
So
the fastest route. You know, so traffic enforcement in Charlotte is kind of a sticky wicket, if you will, because, you know, everybody has their own ideas as to how we need to slow traffic down in town. And in reality, it's a combination of everything kind of put together. The stuff that the community safety team or board, whatever it was that we've had in the past, their ideas, the idea of having more speed enforcement, more traffic enforcement here in town, especially during those commuting hours. You know, during the summer, we're going to see the same speeding issues that we see on F5 or Ferry Road coming from the ferry. I was coming home from work one afternoon and watched, you know, we did 25-30 all the way up to the stop sign. And as soon as I made my left onto Greenbush Road, I heard the sports car just wind up and they were gone, heading down towards the ferry. So we're gonna have those same issues. Now, I heard you guys talking about the tubes, the speed reports on the tubes. Yeah. You know, those are great tools, but again, they're just that, they're tools. You know, so I think a combination of looking at the information that you have, getting good speed limits posted, and making sure that you've got a solid plan for speed enforcement and traffic enforcement through town with a police department is a good plan. I think you need to talk to the sheriff's office. I think you need to talk to the state police. Make sure that those two agencies can fit your needs and go out to bid. Well, the state police
not going to provide any more service to us.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
No more hours.
No more hours. 8.5 is as much as we commit
for the week.
Per week.
Per week, so 32
on average.
hours a month.
And have we talked to the sheriff's department at all?
I think Dean has some feedback.
Yeah, they're probably available they gave me the price, and it's, you know, it's less than state police. It's probably, I mean, what I asked for was about 8 hours, 8 to 10 hours, and they said it'd probably be.
But it was 4-hour block of time minimum, is that what I
Correct.
read?
Correct.
Was,
I believe it was 4.
I think it was 4
it was
hours.
Yep.
So they get them down here in the morning, and you have a full-time job with Shelburne, so if we did both, you'd
Yeah.
probably want to work afternoon or weekends, or?
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute, though. How much police enforcement do we need if we have the sheriff and the state police?
Are you gonna run both, the sheriff
No.
and state?
Don't know.
Well, I think it'd be more effective to have Josh on the state police first.
Not me, Matt.
And then hold off on the sheriff?
If I
Because
can
we
interrupt.
had some,
Sorry.
do you remember the incidents with the sheriff's department?
No,
Are
but
you aware of them?
I believe that's in the past. And people are complaining, they want the traffic to slow down, and the best way is the sheriff
I think
and the
it's,
state police.
like Josh said,
Sorry,
a lot
Josh.
of it is gonna be a program. I know the state police has picked up with their speed cart, and we have a program which finally we got some, where we can start presenting the data of actually how fast people go. Because, I mean, people will
And Spear
just
Street's the
deny
most.
that the average speed is 40. They say it's gotta be at least 60. And the radar doesn't lie. I think part of it has to be a community awareness that
Absolutely correct.
That
you're.
there are opinions and then there's data.
Yeah, your
Right.
perception of speed is off, and it usually is. You think they're going faster than they actually are whenever they go by you in your stationary. That's,
Sometimes it depends on the size of the vehicle too.
Sure.
It does.
Or the
Yeah.
sound of the vehicle.
I came through in front of the old brick store one day. I had a big flatbed and it wasn't the quietest thing in the world, and it geared really low, and when I was going by, the engine was revving like heck, but I was probably only going about 20 miles an hour, and I got people standing on the old brick store thing going, slow down, and
And it's funny because it's crests of hills, it's turns, it's downhills. This is all stuff that we learn through the academy and through experience. You know, so depending on where you are, it makes you look faster. The narrower the road, the faster it's gonna look like you're going, you know? I bet you if I did 20 miles an hour on F5 and 20 miles an hour over, you know, on Limerick Road, it's gonna look completely different on Limerick Road than it's gonna look here on this road.
You were about to make a comment of sheriff versus yourself. You have a bias because it's an opportunity for you, but you were about to make a comment, sheriff versus a motorcycle.
No, that wasn't what I was gonna ask Carrie is, what's your hang up with the state police?
Oh, I don't have a hang up with state police.
Okay, so-
I want the state police and the sheriff.
You want them both?
I want them
in
both.
conjunction, okay.
Yes.
That's what we're all talking
Because-
about.
It's bringing them both in.
Yes,
Just-
the sheriff, I mean, the state police is good to go for another year.
Yes.
I gotta be honest with you, I think bringing in the sheriff's office on top of what the state police is, if you really wanna get a handle on this, and you want some saturation patrol to get a handle on this, that's the route you should be
That is
going.
the route.
And if you wanna supplement me, you know, I would love to supplement into that. I can't give you, I can give you what I told you I'd give you, 3 to 4 hours a week.
To me, I'm hearing, when you say to get a handle on this, the data that we're receiving is, the handle on this doesn't exist.
Okay.
Data-wise.
I haven't looked at the data, so I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
So the state police's report on,
You're right, but their optics though, of having more,
well, so for me, the optics, the emotional sense is we have someone, the constable, that we can direct super specifically, pinpoint accuracy. Could you be on this road at this time for 3 hours? Yes, Josh can do that, and he lives right here, so it's an immediate response. Whereas working with another large agency, I think we're gonna run into a similar scheduling issue of needing to really manage them being where we want them, when we want them, at the time we need them. And to augment the state police's broad presence here with Josh's specific targeting of the places we all know, we live here and he lives here. We know where those places are that feel dangerously fast. The optics of where it feels dangerously fast.
I think the sheriff-
that's the benefit.
I think the sheriff would do precisely what we would ask him based on, I mean, I'm open, I just,
if we get the reputation.
It's not like the
that
state
Charlotte's
pol-
crawling with cops, people are gonna go slower. And
Yeah,
the only way you do that is to have
out there.
everywhere. Like you said, the more people that are here, the more sheriff, state police, the constable, you can't get away with speeding in Charlotte. That's gonna, reputation sooner or later is gonna,
And that's what happens in Shelburne. I see those flashing lights.
Yeah.
I am so cautious in Shelburne. I've been stopped and very pleasant warning, but I'm very conscious. Yes, Christina, you got your hand up.
So, coming from a wife of law enforcement of 37 years, my husband did 20 years at BPD and 14 years U.S. Marshals. 3 questions. 1, can Addison County come up here and patrol, even though it's Chittenden County? They might be cheaper than Chittenden County.
The answer to that question is yes.
Okay, so we probably want to check into Addison County Sheriffs. Okay. Number 2, you're going to be on a motorcycle. We will obviously have to pay a dispatch. Will you be using the state police dispatch or the Shelburne dispatch, and what will the fee be for that?
In the past, I have used Shelburne Dispatch, and they've had no problem with handling 3 or 4 hours a week for me.
Okay, with
So-
no additional fees or anything?
And
Okay,
I can double check with my chief on that.
That's fantastic, because you are active there. And second off, you pull someone over with a DWI or suspended license or has a warrant. You're on a motorcycle.
That is a great question, and to be quite honest with you, I don't know what we would do. We'd probably have to call for a backup unit from Shelburne.
I wonder if that's one of our, we have a list of questions, you've had a couple of them. So, what, they gonna wanna come down here? I mean, here we have the state police,
And you're hiring
the sheriff
sheriffs, and now
potentially,
you're gonna call
and you
Shelburne.
can't, for good reasons, you can't handle a guy that's drunk.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, would Shelburne,
what's the reciprocity called?
Well, it's just that. Well, it's mutual aid.
So
And
mutual aid would kick
I would be
in.
able to process. They would have to transport for me, and I would do the
but you
processing.
think, I mean, this is now, you know everybody in Shelburne, so they'd support you.
I believe
Well,
so.
not only that, he's also a full-time police officer for Shelburne, so he has arrest capabilities at any point in time, 24
Nobody's
hours
on
a
a
day.
motorcycle, he can't
But he
drive.
could be driving his personal truck down Route 7 and see someone weaving, and he can pull someone over
Well, that's not
and
the
give
question.
them a ticket in his own personal
Well, that's
vehicle.
not the
'cause
question.
he's-
The question is, if you're on a two-wheel
I would-
motorcycle.
This is a conversation that I would have to have with Shelburne to make sure that they were on board and at least transporting for
The
me.
issue is, we dumped Shelburne. They wanted us to buy in to be a 30% share of the police department, and it was quadrupling our budget. So they're not particularly happy with us, because we went to the Selectboard meeting, and they,
They're not dealing with you, they're dealing with me, Lane.
okay,
isn't
okay.
that partly up to the
It's all
dispatch?
about the
I'm sorry?
sheriff.
Isn't it partly up to the
This is gonna be
dispatch to
way too
determine
complicated.
who
I don't-
and what unit is available?
In Shelburne, yes.
The state police as, you
I
know,
gotta be honest with you, so here's the bottom line on trying to call state police over to help me out. They're busy enough as it is. Their manpower is an issue as it is, you know, on, given the shift that they might be working. I would never expect state police to send me a unit from Huntington to transport a prisoner for me. I would depend more on Shelburne to pick up a prisoner, and that's a question that I to be quite honest with you guys, it hadn't really popped into my head, what would I do if?
Well, Lieutenant Scott said he's gonna put his troopers on the interstate. If we get others, he'll do the 8.5 hours. But the casual other part of our share, if you got sheriff, we got you, I'm gonna put my troopers down on the interstate, and we're gonna be hard to help you out.
Exactly.
I mean, he said it a couple days ago, weeks
Exactly.
ago.
And I don't blame them for that. I mean, they're busy.
They are our primary. If you weren't doing this and someone went off the road with a DWI and hit a telephone pole, the state police have to decide, can they respond, or do they engage mutual aid and have Shelburne come down?
And I think that might be a conversation
that's-
for myself, Lieutenant Scott, and Shelburne. But I would definitely need to have a conversation with Shelburne to make sure that the dispatching is still going to be the same, and that if I did have an arrestable situation, that they'd be willing to help me out with that. And that's not a hard conversation to have. I've had it with my chief before, and he's never objected to it in the past.
Other questions, Christine was getting into them, ticketing, I mean, how, so you know, just the mechanics of a ticket, I mean, it's gonna say Shelburne on the letterhead, or
No,
Charlotte,
tickets,
or
the tickets all say Vermont.
payable to whom? The town of Charlotte?
I've got my own ticket number,
Okay.
For Charlotte, all the revenues would come here, as long as it's written on
Some
town
court
road.
fees, right?
There's court fees, and depending on what the fine is for, a portion of that goes to the state, and the rest of the revenues come here. But I gotta tell you, I'm not here to generate revenue for you. That's not my goal.
No, we're
My
talking
goal
about
is
mechanics.
My goal is traffic safety, and if that means I write a lot more warnings than I do tickets, then I've done my job.
So if someone goes to court,
Yeah.
you're full-time in Shelburne, and you've got to be there to process this. I mean, you'd be taking time away from Shelburne.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm able to set to some extent, to be able to set my court schedule so that I can try to do it on days that I'm not working in
Courts
Shelburne.
work with the officers to schedule all their stuff typically in blocks, don't
My
they?
sergeant handles all our stuff in Shelburne. He tries to make sure that we're on shift when we do it, but a lot of times they send us a check sheet as to what day we want to appear. So, I mean, my schedule is such that I could more likely than not be able to get the ticket schedules for a day that I'm not working.
Another point, the opposite of what you just said. We asked, I think Matt did, our state police 8.5 hours, don't give warnings, give tickets. People aren't taking you seriously. And it's amazing. I mean, they're local people. And some buddy of mine was rolling to the top steps down at Greenbush Road and, you know, $200, but he's not gonna do it again.
Let me.
I didn't ask for that.
Oh, you didn't ask for the, I thought we did.
For warnings for
Let me ask you.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question.
People
Wait a
get
minute.
taxed quite a bit here.
Wait a minute. Let me put this out to you. If I'm sitting in a cruiser
Yeah.
and I've got my head down and I'm writing, what's the impression of the general public? I'm sitting behind a car and I'm
Someone's
writing.
getting a ticket.
Someone's getting a
Getting
ticket.
a ticket. Have I done what I need to do?
Yes,
What
on
about
that
the
road.
speeder? You've got a speeder in your hand. Do you say, oh, sorry, you're a good guy, we're gonna let you go?
It's happened.
But you
Listen,
see 'em
I gotta be
again.
honest, Elaine, I'm gonna be very honest with you right now.
Open discussion.
Tickets and traffic enforcement is complete officer discretion. If you sit here and tell me that I have to issue tickets, we're done. I'm not gonna do it. We can pull the plug on it right now. It's my discretion. And if you're trying to take my discretion away from me, then that's a no-go, because I can't operate that way. You know, I think that warnings have just the same effect on the motoring public, whether it be the person that is sitting in front of me or the people driving by me. Does a ticket need to be issued because, you know, the person's got, you know, a list as long as my arm with traffic violations? Absolutely. But warnings do the same thing as
You
tickets.
see if someone got pulled over 2 weeks after they just got a warning,
I can
that they
find
got a
that.
warning.
That's pretty easy to figure out.
So
Yeah.
to me, that's the point of a warning, is it's not that we want to take people's money from them. We want people to slow down, and the behavior there is, first time you get a warning, and I'm not telling you what to do, but it seems like when I've gotten a warning, I am so thankful for the system that I don't have points, that I didn't have to pay $200, and that's corrected my behavior.
So you run a stop sign, you get a speeding ticket, a moving violation, okay? Typically, moving violations have points assigned to them. So you've got the fine, you've got the points. In 6 months, when your insurance is due, your insurance is gonna go up, okay? And usually, that's a pretty big bill on top of it. So you continue to pay for the mistake for quite some time.
In your hometown, I mean, it's just a...
Let me ask you, do you have like an iPad? I mean, you're on your motorcycle and you stop this guy. Can you get his record?
I can ask dispatch for it.
You can do it?
I asked dispatch for it.
Oh, so dispatch will do that for you?
Yeah,
Oh, that's good.
I don't have a computer hanging on the bike, so.
Yeah. Well, my boat has all that stuff. Okay.
I did have a question though. My husband's very much so like you. He never believed in traffic tickets. His best friend and partner, on the other hand, did a second career as the governor's.
Governor's highway safety.
Yes, and so Bill's reaction is ticket everybody and they'll learn. My husband's is give warnings. I know someone in town who got a speeding ticket at one end of Greenbush, who then 4 months later got a speeding ticket at the other end of Greenbush, except for this time the state police officer gave her a ticket for not having her insurance card or her license, which we all know will basically be thrown out when she gets to court. But the point is that as much as sometimes warnings are okay, sometimes the people in town have taken for granted the speed that they're accustomed to traveling the roads. And even though it is their hometown, sometimes they do need a reminder with a ticket. So I understand your discretion, you know, wanting to have discretion, but I do think there are some repeat offenders for the speed.
And I'm sure I'll get to know them.
Yeah.
And if they're repeat, then of course the ticket book can come out. Hopefully that will cure the ailment, so to speak.
There's also the benefit of having a hometown constable patrolling the roads versus the sheriffs who are rotating and not knowing community members.
I think that the state police that you get down here on a regular basis are really starting to get to know the town folk.
Which cars are going fast.
Yeah, which ones are going
Who they
fast,
are.
where to sit, you know, where to get people, what stop signs to sit on, so on and so forth. I think that, you know, I think the idea of, I really do think the idea of bringing both state police and the sheriff's department on are a great idea. The big question is there a way to coordinate a schedule? And I'm not sure
Well, I
that.
think there is, because the sheriff will do, you know, 2 4-hour periods in the morning. And, you know, you don't see the state police around except to me more in the afternoons, you know, after their shifts are over.
Wasn't it 2 to 4 hours, a minimum of 2 and maximum of 4?
I have to look again.
Yeah, I feel like
it was 4 hours.
it's
their
it's
minimum
straight
is
up
4.
4 hours?
Minimum, yeah.
Okay.
What would you wear for a uniform?
I've got my constable uniform that I wear.
Does it say Charlotte on it, or?
It says Charlotte Constable on
cool.
on the chest, and you've seen it at town meeting.
Oh, that's
Mr.
okay.
Dow just told us twice that he thinks the sheriff and the state police route is the best way to go. Or a good
I
way
think
to go.
that, you know, I don't
For
see
now.
it for a year,
Yeah.
you know, or for whatever, to get some saturation in town. Like Fritz was saying, people start to see a lot of cruisers in town, they're gonna slow down. That whole flying the colors thing really, really works.
Worked for years in front of the school. Remember there was all those tickets? That worked, the speed limit worked for years because people knew.
And
Like you say, Shelburne.
say that again?
The Island Pond Constable.
Or Wallingford.
Forever known that there is a 4-way stop sign in Island Pond, and he always sat on the other side, and it was a guarantee that if you were going over 25 miles an hour, you were getting a ticket. It did not matter who you were.
1 mile
Period.
an hour.
Yep, it did not matter.
Wallingford single-handedly paid for all sorts of equipment with the ticket revenues that he was bringing in. I'm not sure if it's the same guy that's doing it, but when you drove through Wallingford, you slowed down. Even I slowed down going through Wallingford, you know, just to
And you
a
probably
crawl.
still will, right?
Yeah.
To this day.
Yeah, because you just never know what you're gonna get.
Reputation's out there. Once you find out, like I said, once people realize Charlotte's crawling with cops, they'll go slow. Even if they stop showing up so much, the reputation lasts a long time.
Right.
So regarding pay, for your constable duties, we put in a budget.
$17 an hour, I think is what you.
Oh, that's, okay, we're trying to figure out, do we need to do a Palmer analysis with you?
Sure,
You wanna?
let's sit down and do it. Let's schedule a time.
Okay, we'll do that. So you have some questions you have to ask about dispatch.
Yep.
Shelburne, DWI, how you handle all that stuff. So you'll get back to Dean, or
Yep, absolutely.
we should probably formalize our request to the sheriff as well. Do we have?
Definitely.
Huh?
Definitely.
You've done you've already done asked for a proposal as to what they'll do for you.
I
what
think he
they'll
asked for
charge.
hourly, some basics. What do you have there, or is it the,
Email.
was it an email?
Yeah, this was the email that I got.
Maybe put
Because
some,
we really, we could have
From
somebody in
Kevin
November,
McLaughlin.
we'd have sheriff in November, right? We could have.
Chittenden County Sheriff Kevin McLaughlin.
oh,
This was the,
Yeah.
Is there other places to get bids? Because we do have the purchasing policy that anything over 1,000, there's supposed to be 3 bids if possible.
There's no way I'm gonna get 3 bids on motor equipment. It's just not gonna happen. I could probably call the Harley dealership. I'm gonna need something on letterhead from the town saying that I'll be acting as a constable, and to see what it would cost.
Just because there'll be discussion about the purchasing policy and
You're
follow
supposed to
through
not
on it.
necessarily have 3 bids, but
Unless
have
you
contacted people. You can go online. I mean, I've done that.
The big question is the install. I don't want to rip my Harley apart and install the lights myself. I'd much rather have somebody who knows electrical hook things up for me.
Well, we could make Lewis's company a temporary sole source, even if it's for a 6-month period.
What I'll do is
the
I'll get a
installation.
formal quote from him. I'll call the 2 Harley spots in Vermont, or northern Vermont, the one down in Barry, one in Essex. I'm sure they're going to be the
An
same.
estimate of time, I'm thinking for the sheriff, suggest we get a request for proposal July 1st, and maybe a 6-month trial period or something, and then you have to tell us when you could start, because the good weather is starting right now.
Yeah, it is.
Well, we don't have a huge problem right now either, so it's not like we have to have somebody
Well, Front Porch Forum
next
people will
week.
tell you they do.
Well, Spear
Not
Street
recently.
was the
It's
fastest.
been 3 weeks of pretty quiet. front
Becomes
porch forums.
repetitive.
Yeah.
What
Just
I
said the
haven't,
select board won't do anything.
I haven't been on, I haven't
To my
been on Front
mind,
Porch Forum in a while.
it's
In a couple
anecdotal
of weeks.
evidence that goes back years and years. I saw so-and-so could run the red light. That could have been 8 years ago, but and then there's the perception of high speed when maybe it isn't high speed.
Yeah, I think people watch the VCAM with the state police and realize that there's a difference between people's opinion and the data.
Right.
And,
And
it got real quiet after that.
And the
People
data-
understand there's not as much speeding as people are
People
saying there
aren't,
is.
there's, somebody went 80 miles an hour on Greenbush, but that's one car out of, how many days do they have the tubes down measuring?
A couple thousand.
Where were the tubes?
I can't remember where they had them.
The actual work tubes, there was the radar.
Or is it
Where
radar?
was the radar unit?
Spear Street,
Oh, this is the portable one like ours? That's where they're getting the
on
data?
Greenbush, just north of the village.
Okay.
File Road.
And Spear Street, I think Spear Street had the highest speed.
So here's one of the questions that you've got to ask. Was that a cruiser going to a call? Was that a first responder coming to the firehouse? What time of day or night it was?
Yeah,
Was it?
nobody would know that.
And nobody would know that.
Nobody would know
When
that.
we lay tubes on
Interesting.
Falls Road in Shelburne, they're between Church Street and the Marset Road intersection. A lot of times, that's how we go on calls up to the east, up to the east side of town, depending on where it falls, up on Spear or Dorset. Well, I've gone over those tubes at 85 miles an hour. It's like, well, I'm going to skew the data today as you're going. So,
That's cool.
so there's things that you have to, there's other questions that you've got to have. If you've got a single moment in time, a single snapshot, what was the reason for it? Was it a cruiser? Was it a first responder? Was it truly somebody going 80 miles an hour? Was there tube slap? Well, you don't have the tubes. These were actual radar radars. Yeah. See, when you lay the tubes, if the tubes aren't taut on the pavement and that tube smacks on the ground when you go over it, tube slap will give you an increased speed.
You know what I noticed with the Spear Street one? Just when it was facing north, and as I was coming southbound home, just as I crested the hill right before, just north of Carpenter Road, I saw it caught my speed, and then there's a dip at Carpenter Road, and then I come back up in the middle of the field there, and it picks my speed up again. So it might be double counting cars
Could be.
in that location.
There's a chart that they provided, or a graph, and basically it seems like a pretty consistent percentage of the number of drivers and the number that are speeding. So it's not, there is a single, car that went 80, but then there's a bunch of cars that went, over but not 80. It's on the, I put it on the
No,
table.
but I mean doubling the data.
Because it's
Because
picking
it
the
picked
car
me
up
up
as it
twice.
crests the
Picking up
hill.
twice.
You go down into a dip, come back up, and it reads you again.
You can always put a camera on it.
So
You can't give them a ticket based on the camera, but you can identify the car.
should we try to have the 2 inputs ready in for the 12th, or should we wait 30 days?
The 2 inputs being the sheriff and
And Josh's
Josh.
best estimate and answers to questions.
Because then there's insurance questions that we have to be sure.
Well, that's a huge question, because if I'm using my motorcycle in the course of the duty, my regular insurance isn't going to cover it.
All right.
You've already-
Our insurance person said
It is-
that's your problem. Not to say it's your problem, but basically, we
But
don't cover
you're gonna
vehicle.
be
We
required
don't cover vehicle reliability.
The insurance goes with the owner, and then anything, if they were to sue anything over over yours, that's when our insurance.
Yeah, but the
would
problem
kick
is that,
Yeah.
the problem is that if I'm using my motorcycle in the course of a business, I'm not covered if I get into a car accident.
See, it's much simpler paperwork-wise to just hire the sheriff for 6 months.
Was very clear though that the
and less money.
insurance coverage is based on the owner of the vehicle.
Absolutely.
Well, have you asked your agent what it costs, if they'll even do it?
I'm sure they would, I just have to ask the question.
Yeah.
And we'd be paying that. He's not gonna pay that.
No,
We'd
that'd be
paying it.
something the town would pay for.
Right.
Town wants to pay for my insurance, I'm all for it.
Both sheriffs too.
What's the difference?
Or
Yeah.
is the difference of what it?
What about an umbrella over your basic insurance, what I do at home? You know, because you're taking a different role, you're already covered. That umbrella then would be what the town would pay.
Yeah. I can look into it. The other question is, am I bonded?
I don't know if you're bonded as a sheriff, but as far as enforcement.
Bonded as a constable for the town.
I mean, a constable, rather.
Yeah.
When you're reappointed, you get there's a bonding requirement.
Not by me.
I think Mary might know more about that as far as filling out paperwork, because we have to be bonded as treasurers. so
Yeah.
I think that Mary might be able to answer that question.
You haven't gotten bonded in the past?
I've never been, I knew that there was bonding that needed to be done.
Right.
And I'm not super caught up on what that's like insurance, correct?
It covers if you were to mishandle funds.
Okay.
So yes, that would be something you would do.
You know, and then the question is how am I looked at on workers' compensation?
As a town employee, so that's part of the town's coverage.
But because you're acting constable and we have a constable, we already have the rider
Yep.
for having law enforcement, so.
Great.
Dean, what'd you say for the time, the 12th or the 20th?
I think I could get a quote from Addison County Sheriff by the 12th. I don't know as far as all the questions that you were going to come back with, whether you'd be ready by the 12th or by the 26th.
The 12th of June?
Yeah,
I can,
it's 2 weeks,
yeah, I can be done with it.
almost 3 weeks. So, when we find some time and everybody good with that, we can make a decision, one, both, neither? Okay. Good input?
Any other questions?
Do you have an estimate on, I mean, I know this is off the wall, but I mean, estimates of how many tickets get appealed to court and what court time is?
No clue. No clue as to how many get appealed. I think it totally depends on who's getting them.
Well, what about your experience? I mean, if you give out 100 tickets, how often do you go to court?
Let's make something really clear. I don't give a lot of tickets in Shelburne.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I write a lot of warnings in Shelburne. The guys who write tickets in Shelburne are probably seeing, I think they go to traffic court once, maybe twice a month. And these guys write tickets and they're seeing anywhere between 5 and 7.
So in Shelburne, the entire police force is their own discretion, how they want to do it.
Yep.
The older you are, the less tickets, the younger you are, the more they give out, or?
No, let me give you my thought process behind this. My thought process behind this is that the average ticket for speeding, I would guess, would be somewhere between $150 and $175, depending. Okay, and you're looking somewhere between 2 and 3 points. I know I can't afford an extra $175 out of my paycheck in a month's time or whatever to pay that ticket. If I know that, and I've got a good paying job, my wife's got a good paying job, if I know that that's going to impact me, how's that going to impact somebody who's making $30,000 a year? I have a hard time writing those tickets. I write them when I have to and when there's no other choice. But a lot of times...
Some of it talks about criminalizing poverty. It's a regressive tax system.
It's brutal, and it's truly is a double-edged sword. I mean, am I more likely to write a teenager a ticket for speeding? Probably, because they need to learn. Unfortunately, a lot of times it's the parents who end up paying it, but the ass chewing, I'm not allowed to say that on TV, that they get from mom and dad is going to go a lot further No.
Well,
So I
thank-
write a tremendous amount of warnings, and I gotta be honest with you, the warnings that I write, I don't see a lot of those people in front of me again. So, and I've done my job, I'm writing, people think the perception is I'm writing a ticket, and it's gotten then the person sitting in the car in front of me is expecting a ticket, because I'm sitting back there writing, because they're watching me in their mirror. So, it gets the point across.
Thank you for your inputs.
Yep.
We'll have to make a decision in a couple of weeks, how we want to go. Good.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Very good. I think we have one more item. The Civil Engineering Associates Service Agreement. I think we have to approve the quote. Here it is. Is this it? We asked, well, this is March 9th. We're dealing with a March 9th letter, which has the quote. So this is a quote to test the 7 septic systems on Lane's Lane. Is that right?
Not really to test them, to do.
Inspect them.
Inspect them from the surface level.
Evaluate existing water systems. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the, what do you call this, proposal by Civil Engineering Associates to inspect the wastewater systems on Lane's Lane, not to exceed $1,050.
As proposed in the March 9th, 2017 letter?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Second.
Okay, good. Anybody have any comments to that?
I was just wondering, wasn't there, I'm trying to remember what I read here. There was, the fee, the rates, did we get that?
I'm not understanding the question.
It says, photocopying.
Oh, their standard
will be
fees?
billed. Yeah.
Yeah, we did. We did receive it, and I might not have included with it. It's basically a per hour fee depending upon who is, whether it's the principal or a an engineer or, who's working. It's an hourly cost. So using that, that was what their estimate is based on.
Okay.
Yep. I was just wondering, because we didn't, said it was included and I didn't see it.
Any other comments on this? Seconded, I guess, yeah. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
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 All right.
Any other matters to be brought up?
This is to be signed by,
Which one is that?
this is,
Well, the one, oh, you want to authorize the chair to sign it,
and that's,
or somebody? Client, that's us.
it's looking for a client signature. So I would say we should authorize the chair to sign.
That's part of the motion that we just approved?
Yep.
Okay, good. Let me just take that and it looks clean. Any other business? We have warrants here. Just 2, I believe. Is there a motion to,
Motion to adjourn.
yeah, one of those.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Yeah, here you go, Dean. Here's another one of these signed.
It's not 9 o'clock yet.
Man, without controversy,
It's
just
still light outside. Come on, what are we gonna do
walk
for
my
the rest
dog.
of?